Desires are not lack. They are memories from your future. Take a breath. Really just one slow inhale. Because what I'm about to say might bend something inside you. Not in a confusing way, but the way truth bends metal that was never meant to stay in its old shape. Here it is. Your desires are not signs of lack. They are memories, echoes from your future timeline. I know that sounds impossible at first. You've been taught your whole life that desire means you're missing something. That wanting equals not having. But think about this for a moment. Have you ever wanted something so deeply, so irrationally, that it didn't feel like a new dream but more like a déjà vu? Like you weren't discovering the desire, you were remembering it? What if that feeling wasn't your imagination? What if your desire is simply your future self calling you? Not to warn you, not to pressure you, but to remind you of a reality you've already lived, in another branch of possibility. And you feel that pull not because you're empty, but because you're entangled with a version of you who already became what you're reaching for. So let me ask you gently, but directly. What if desire isn't hunger, but recognition? What if the thing you want most isn't ahead of you, but already exists in a timeline that's trying to sync with your current one? And what if the real question is not, how do I get what I want? But rather, why is my future calling me now? Let's stretch this paradox a little further. Because once you see where desires actually come from, your entire relationship with wanting will change. You've been told desire rises from emptiness, that it's your mind identifying a missing piece. But that's not what it feels like, does it? Some desires stay with you for years, quiet, steady, almost patient. They don't scream, they hum, like a frequency that never stops broadcasting, no matter how much you try to outgrow it or distract yourself. Why? Because desire isn't created inside you, it's received. Think of yourself like a radio. You're not inventing the music. You're tuning into a signal that already exists. And that signal? It comes from a timeline where you've already lived the experience you're now longing for. This is why your desires feel personal, specific, and strangely familiar. Why do you want the kind of love you want? Why does a certain lifestyle pull at you more than others? Why do you feel magnetized to a dream that doesn't even make sense to the people around you? Because their future is not your future. Their signal isn't your signal. You're picking up the resonance of your realized timeline. The one that matches the blueprint of who you can become when you stop negotiating with your own potential. But here's the real twist. If desire is a signal, then what's the receiver? What part of you is actually tuning into this message from your future self? Is it intuition? Is it the subconscious? Is it something biological, or something quantum? And even more importantly, how does the human brain detect a future that hasn't happened yet? That's where this gets interesting, because your brain isn't just a memory machine, it's a prediction engine, a timeline navigator, a pattern decoder connected to possibilities you're not consciously aware of. Which raises the question, one I want you to hold for a moment. If your desires are signals, how exactly is your mind receiving them? We're about to go deeper, much deeper, quantum foundation. Before we go any further, I want you to imagine something simple. Imagine standing in front of a mirror, but instead of one reflection, there are hundreds. Each one is you. Slightly different, subtly altered, living out a version of your life shaped by every choice you did and didn't make. This isn't fantasy. This is closer to how quantum probability actually works. You're not moving through one linear future. You're surrounded by multiple potential timelines, branches of reality that already exist as possibilities waiting for one thing: your alignment. Here's the part most people miss. You don't choose your timeline with wishes or hope or positive thinking. You choose it with identity, with who you are being in this exact moment. Because in the quantum model, your state of being collapses probability. Not your thoughts, not your vision board, not your affirmations spoken through gritted teeth. It's who you are that selects the version of reality you step into. And this is where desire becomes fascinating. Your future self, the one who already has the thing you keep longing for, isn't separate from you. You're entangled, connected like two particles that mirror each other even across distance, even across time. When you feel a desire, you're not generating it. You're detecting it. Like your consciousness brushes against a timeline that feels more you than the one you're currently standing in. Think of it this way. Each future timeline broadcasts a different frequency. The version of you who already became the person you keep imagining, that version is broadcasting a signal, steady, coherent, unmistakable. And when your inner state lines up with that signal, you feel what we call desire. Not lack, not absence, recognition, a pull, a knowing, a resonance with a possibility that already exists within the quantum field. And here's the paradox. You're not reaching toward the future. The future is reaching toward you. Your desires are simply the moments when you notice the pull. But this raises the next big question, one most people never think to ask. If desire is the signal, why do so many people feel blocked from manifesting what they want? There's a reason for that. A reason hidden beneath the way society taught you to interpret desire, and once you see it, the entire nature of wanting will reorganize itself in your mind. We'll go there next. Breaking the old paradigm. Now that you understand the quantum foundation, let's break the biggest misunderstanding that's been quietly shaping your entire life. Because somewhere along the way, from childhood, school, culture, religion, self-help books, you were taught a story about desire that was never true. You were taught that wanting something means you don't have it. That desire and lack are the same thing, just dressed in different clothes. And because you believed that, you learned to look at your desires with guilt, with pressure, with a subtle sense of, I'm not enough yet. You learned to chase, to grasp, to wait for permission. And maybe without noticing, you ended up treating your desires like problems to be fixed instead of signals to be followed. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Everything society taught you about desire came from the perspective of a person who believes they are separate from their future. That old paradigm says, I want it because I don't have it. I'll feel worthy when I achieve it. I need to fix my life so I can deserve it. But when you want from that mindset, you activate the vibration of not having. And that's exactly where many law of attraction teachings go wrong. They tell you to visualize what you want, but they never show you how to shift the identity from which you're wanting. So you end up imagining a future while still being the version of you who doesn't believe that future is possible. And what happens? You repel the very thing you're trying to attract, not because the desire is wrong, but because you're interpreting it from the frequency of lack. Let me say this clearly. Desire is not deficiency. Desire is direction. Desire is intelligence. Desire is guidance. It's the compass pointing toward the timeline that carries the fullest expression of you. What hurts is not desire itself. What hurts is the story you were taught about it. And once that story dissolves, something surprising becomes clear. You were never supposed to chase your desires. You were supposed to remember them. But if desire is guidance and not lack, then why does it still feel heavy sometimes? Why does wanting still create tension, anxiety, or fear? There's a deeper layer underneath all of this, one that modern science is finally beginning to uncover. And it starts inside your brain. Let's go there next. Neuroscience layer. Let's shift gears for a moment. Not away from the mystical, but deeper into the mechanics of how your mind actually works. Because if what I've told you so far feels spiritual, here's the part that might surprise you. Your brain is built to predict, not react. Predict. It's not a storage box for memories, it's a simulation engine. Constantly generating models of what's likely to happen next. Moment by moment. Breath by breath. And this system has a name. Predictive coding. Your brain doesn't wait for reality to show up. It tries to guess reality before it arrives. Using patterns, probabilities, sensations, and possibilities that you're not consciously aware of. But here's the twist. The predictions your brain makes aren't limited to your past. They're drawn from a vast map of potential futures. Your brain is constantly running simulations. What if you became this kind of person? What if you lived that kind of life? What if you stepped into that identity you secretly feel connected to? Most of this happens beneath consciousness, quietly, automatically, relentlessly. And every time your brain finds a future that matches your deeper potential, you feel it as desire. Not because you're empty, not because something is missing, but because your brain is anticipating the version of you that feels the most coherent, the most aligned, the most true. There's another mechanism too, some more prospection. This is your brain's ability to mentally time travel, to project yourself into imagined futures and emotionally experience them as if they're already happening. Scientists treat prospection as a cognitive function. But spiritually and quantumly, it's so much more. It's the biological counterpart to you brushing against future timelines. It's how your system receives signals from the version of you that already exists in another branch of reality. And that brings us to a bold idea. One neuroscience is inching closer to every year. Your brain is not a memory machine. It's a timeline navigator. It remembers the past only so it can predict the future. And it predicts the future only because some part of you is already entangled with it. So when a desire keeps visiting you over and over, that's not an accident. That's not fantasy. That's not delusion. That's recognition. That's your brain saying, there is a future where this already happened, and you're aligned with it more than you realize. This is why your desires feel familiar. This is why certain dreams feel like home. This is why some paths glow brighter inside your mind than others ever could. Because your brain isn't imagining that future, it's remembering it. But there's still one more piece, the bridge between desire and manifestation. If your desires are future memories, well, then what force is actually sending those memories back to you? That's where resonance enters the story. And that's where we go next. Desire equals future memory. Now that you understand how your brain anticipates the future, let's tie everything together, because this is where the entire picture becomes clear. Desire is not a craving, it's not a need. It's not your mind begging the universe for something it doesn't have. Desire is a signal, a resonance, an echo. It's the moment when your present identity brushes against a future identity that already exists. Fully formed, fully lived in another timeline. And when those two versions of you connect, even for a split second, your system reacts with a very specific feeling, wanting. But underneath wanting, if you slow down, if you listen carefully, you'll notice there's something strangely familiar about the thing you desire. Something that feels like, I've been here before. Even if you never have, why do you want a particular kind of life? Why that dream? Why that version of success, that expression of creativity, that depth of love? Why not something else? Why not what everyone else wants? Because their future isn't your future, their timeline isn't your timeline, their resonance isn't your resonance. You're not supposed to want what they want. You're supposed to want what you are already becoming. Desire is personal because your future is personal. You've never truly chosen your deepest desires. You've recognized them, like landmarks on a path you once walked and are now rediscovering. This is why people struggle when they force themselves into dreams they think they should want. It never sticks. It never feels true because there's no resonance, no echo, no entanglement with the lived future. But when a desire keeps returning, quietly, softly, persistently, that's not obsession, that's alignment, that's the future you saying, this is the path where you become fully yourself. And if that's true, if desire is actually a memory from a timeline where you already succeeded, then we're left with a powerful question. Why doesn't it manifest immediately? What blocks the timeline from collapsing into your reality if you're already connected to it? That's the next layer, and it's a big one. Now here's the question that quietly bothers you, even if you've never said it out loud. If desire is a signal, if it's a memory from your future timeline, if it's a resonance with the version of you who already lived the life you keep dreaming about, then why doesn't it just happen? Why doesn't the thing you want slide effortlessly into your life the moment you feel it? Why do you still feel tension? Why do you still feel distance? Why does wanting sometimes hurt more than not wanting at all? Let's slow down for a second. Because the answer isn't what you think. It's not because you're not worthy. It's not because you're not ready. It's not because the universe is withholding anything from you. The reason is far more subtle and far more powerful. Desire contains two frequencies inside it, the pull of the future and the resistance of the present, two signals broadcasting at the same time. One says, "This is who you're becoming." The other whispers, "This isn't who you are yet." And those two messages collide inside your nervous system, creating friction, overthinking, fear, urgency, attachment, and emotional noise that drowns out the clarity of the future timeline. It's not the desire that blocks you. It's the identity you're holding while desiring. This is the paradox most people never see. Your future is pulling you forward, but your present is pulling you back. And until you understand this tension, until you know how to dissolve it, manifestation feels like driving with one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake. So here's the real question, the one we need to answer next. What exactly inside you is pushing against the very future That's trying to unfold. That's where the truth begins. The truth, let's get honest. Not the polite kind of honest. The kind that changes the way you see yourself. Because if you've ever wondered why your desires feel heavy, why they take so long, why they sometimes turn into anxiety instead of excitement, it's not because the desire is wrong, it's because you're wanting it from the wrong version of you. I need you to hear this clearly. Desire carries two frequencies. There's the signal, the pull from your future timeline, pure, clean, magnetic. And then there's the resistance, the frequency of your present identity that still believes it doesn't have it, doesn't deserve it, or isn't ready for it. The signal says you already are this. The resistance says you're not there yet. And manifestation becomes impossible when those two voices collide. It's like trying to tune into a radio station while blasting static at full volume. You hear flashes of music, moments of clarity, bursts of alignment, but never long enough to lock onto the frequency. This is why people get stuck. Not because the universe is testing them, not because they're manifesting wrong, not because the dream is too big, but because they're desiring from an identity that contradicts the timeline they're trying to access. You can't collapse the future while being loyal to a past version of yourself. And that's the real truth nobody tells you. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest who you are. Every timeline is encoded with a version of you, your beliefs, your emotional baseline, your self-image, your assumptions about what's possible. Your future self, the version of you who already has the thing, operates from a different identity than the version of you who's still wanting it. So when you want from lack, you strengthen lack. When you want from fear, you strengthen fear. When you want from impatience, you strengthen separation. But when you shift your identity, when you begin to feel, act, and choose like the version of you who already has the thing, the static dissolves, the friction fades, the signal clears, the timeline collapses toward you instead of you chasing it. Because manifestation isn't about getting what you desire. It's about becoming the person for whom that desire is natural. You're not trying to create a future, you're trying to match a future that already exists. So the real question becomes, are you wanting this desire as the version of you who doesn't have it? Or are you remembering it as the version of you who already lived it? When you cross that line, when your desire stops being a cry for what's missing and becomes a recognition of what's inevitable, the universe responds instantly. And this brings us to the next critical layer, identity, the true engine of timeline collapse, timeline identity. Take a moment, because this is the part no one teaches, and yet it's the single most important key to collapsing the timeline your desire came from. Let's start with something simple, but life-changing. You don't change your reality. You change the you who's experiencing it. Every timeline, every possible future, is built around a specific version of you, not your goals, not your affirmations, not your wish list. You, your identity, your internal posture, your unconscious assumptions about who you are. Think of timelines as different rooms in a house. Each room has its own design, its own atmosphere, its own story of you. And identity. Identity is the key card. You don't get into a new room by wanting it. You get in by becoming the person who belongs there. Let me say that again, slowly. Timelines don't respond to desire. They respond to identity. Your future self, The one who already has the life you want is not waiting for you to work harder. They're waiting for you to upgrade who you believe yourself to be. Because manifestation doesn't happen when you force reality to change. Manifestation happens when you stop choosing the identity that matches your old reality. That's what collapse really is. It's not making the universe give you what you want. It's selecting the reality that matches the version of you you're willing to embody. Now, here's the part that gets really interesting. Your future self is already broadcasting a frequency, a coherent, steady, unmistakable identity signature. When you feel desire, you're actually brushing up against that version of you. But when you cling to your old identity, the one who doubts, the one who waits, the one who feels like they need permission, you collapse back into the same timeline you were trying to outgrow. Identity is magnetic. It pulls reality into place around it. Change your identity and your timeline has no choice but to reorganize itself. And here's how you know you're shifting into the identity of your future timeline. 1. Synchronicities increase, not coincidences, confirmations. 2. Old habits stop making sense, not because you're forcing discipline, but because the old you can't survive in the new frequency. 3. You feel anticipatory calm, a quiet confidence before anything physical changes. 4. Your desires feel less like longing and more like recognition. 5. You make choices that the new you would make automatically, not to prove anything, but because it feels natural. These are the signs of a timeline shift in progress, not external proof but internal inevitability. Because once identity changes, reality doesn't have free will anymore. It must restructure around you. Your job isn't to manifest the future. Your job is to embody the version of you that already lived it. When you become that version, in emotion, in assumption, in decision, in self-concept, the timeline collapses effortlessly, and desire stops feeling like a wound and starts feeling like a roadmap. Now that you understand identity as the engine of timeline selection, the next step is embodiment. How do you physically, emotionally, energetically become the future version of you? That's where everything changes. Embodiment practices. Now that you understand identity as the selector of your timeline, let's talk about embodiment. The part where theory becomes transformation. Because here's the truth. You cannot think your way into a new reality. You must become the version of you who already lives there. And embodiment isn't about pretending. It's not about forcing confidence or acting like someone you're not. Embodiment is alignment. It's the process of letting the future you bleed into the present moment until the line between who you were and who you're becoming completely dissolves. Let me walk you through 5 practices that shift your identity from the inside out. Subtle, powerful, deeply integrative. 1. Identity priming. This isn't about rewriting your entire personality. It's about choosing one trait your future self carries effortlessly and adopting it now. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Now. If your future self is decisive, choose decisiveness today. If your future self is grounded, choose groundedness today. If your future self is abundant, choose the assumption of abundance today. Identity changes one micro choice at a time, and every choice sends a message to your timeline. I'm shifting. 2. Future memory activation. Your mind doesn't respond to images, it responds to sensations, so instead of visualizing your future, feel it. Close your eyes and let your body remember the version of you who already arrived. How do they breathe? How do they walk into a room? What assumptions do they wake up with? What do they no longer negotiate with? You're not imagining this. You're retrieving a memory from another timeline. Let your nervous system absorb it. 3. Desire decharging. Your desire becomes heavy when you wrap it in urgency. So here's the practice. Hold the desire but release the tension. Say to yourself, I don't need this to feel complete. I'm already aligned with the version of me who has it. The desire stays, the charge dissolves, and in the quantum field, neutrality is power. When you release desperation, you create space for the timeline to collapse. 4. Quantum stillness. There are moments when doing more actually blocks the timeline, because the future you isn't frantic. They're precise, intentional, clear. Quantum stillness is the practice of dropping into neutrality, a state where your identity isn't fighting your future or clinging to your past. Sit in silence. Breathe without purpose. Let everything soften. Stillness is where your signal aligns and the future locks in. 5. Resonant action. This is the bridge between internal identity and external reality. Ask yourself, what is one small action the version of me who already has this would take today? Not a giant leap, not a dramatic change, just one aligned move. When you take action from resonance, not fear, not lack, not pressure, you create a feedback loop where your identity and reality begin to match each other. And that's when everything speeds up. Signs increase, momentum builds, synchronicities stack. Your old identity falls away because it no longer has a home. Here's the truth. Embodiment isn't about performing your future self. It's about remembering them. It's about letting the version of you who already lived your desire become the version of you who makes decisions today. When you do that, the future stops feeling distant and starts feeling inevitable. Desire alchemy. Now that you understand embodiment, there's one more shift you must make. A shift that turns desire from something that weighs on you into something that leads you. Because here's the secret almost nobody realizes. Desire is not a demand. Desire is a direction. It's not here to control you, pressure you, or remind you of what you lack. It's here to guide you, to act as a map pointing toward the timeline where you are most fully expressed. But to follow that map, you need to stop treating desire like a craving and start treating it like intelligence. Let me show you how. 1. Stop asking, how do I get this? The moment you ask how, you shift into lack. You assume you're far away. You assume you're missing something. Instead ask, why is this desire calling me? That question places you in alignment with the future that's already unfolding. 2. Look for the feeling underneath the desire. Every desire carries an emotional signature. Freedom, power, love, stability, expression, expansion. You're not chasing the thing. You're chasing the state. And when you activate the state first, the thing arrives naturally. That's alchemy. 3. Let desire guide your identity, not your urgency. When the desire arises, don't jump into panic or impatience. Drop into curiosity instead. Ask yourself, what version of me would already have this? Then embody that identity, not because you're forcing the future, but because you're remembering it. 4. Trust that desire chooses you for a reason. If a desire keeps returning, it's not random, it's not wishful thinking, it's not delusion. It's a signal from a timeline where you've already lived that experience. You're not chasing a fantasy, you're decoding a memory. 5. Read desire like a compass, not a countdown. When you stop treating desire like a deadline, it stops tightening your chest. It stops pressuring your nervous system. It stops triggering fear. And instead, it becomes what it was always meant to be, a gentle pull toward the most aligned version of you. This is desire alchemy, the shift from wanting to remembering, from craving to recognizing, from chasing the future to allowing it to meet you. Because once desire becomes guidance, it no longer hurts. It no longer feels distant. It no longer overwhelms you. It simply shows you where to walk next. And now, there's only one question left. How do you deepen your link with the future version of you who's been guiding you all along? Future hook. Now you understand the truth. Your desires were never asking you to chase anything. They were asking you to remember. They were the breadcrumbs, the whispers, the coordinates leading you back to the version of you who already lived the life you're longing for. But here's the real question, the one that changes everything. What happens when your future self stops sending you signal and starts sending you guidance? Not gentle echoes, not distant pulls, but actual direction, clarity, insight, intuition so strong it feels like someone is walking beside you. Because there's a level beyond desire, a level where you don't just feel pulled toward your future. You feel supported by it, informed by it, led by it, and that's where we're going next. In the next chapter, you'll learn how to synchronize with the version of you who already made it, how to receive messages, intuition, and alignment directly from your future identity. A connection so real it becomes more powerful than your past, more magnetic than your fears, more familiar than your doubts. So ask yourself, are you ready to stop wanting and start remembering? Because your future self has been waiting for this moment, for you. And now, they're ready to speak.